welcome everyone to No Cabin Fever today. I'm Michaela from Scandio, and with us today is Lisa Barton from CPRIME. And our talk today is about how to build a solid foundation for your scaled agile journey in Jira. So now over to you, Lisa.
So my name is Lisa Barton, and as you heard, we are going to talk about scaling safe with Jira and how to build a solid foundation for your scaled agile journey in Jira. So here are a couple key agenda and learning objectives. I'm going to give you a quick introduction, then we'll talk about some architectural and configuration best practices. We'll talk about what does it take to support safe with Jira. We'll talk about two use cases, a small and a medium-sized organization, and then touch on governance and the importance of protecting your investment. All right, so let's get started. Nice to meet you. Good morning. My name is Lisa Barton, and I am a solution architect here at CPRIME. I really get the opportunity to go into companies and help them really utilize the Atlassian tool stack to implement, to support their processes and the way that they do business, and to really help them find ways to take these tools and maximize their abilities. So I get to have a lot of fun with companies really digging into these tools, and I'm excited to share with you guys a few things that I have learned along the way as well. A little bit about CPRIME. We're an Alton company. As you know, we are not only a safe partner, but we are also an Atlassian Platinum partner and have recently won a few awards. So exciting times. So why safe? Let's talk about why safe. There are a number of reasons that agile organizations start to take that safe journey, right? And really make that transition from just being an agile organization to really turning the corner and becoming a safe shop or a safe organization, or in some cases, safe-ish, right? But the top three reasons that I usually hear over and over again from my clients is they need scalability, they need better, more robust reporting, both granularly and roll-up, and they need the ability to better plan and to better manage their risk. And a lot of the things that we build for our clients really start to look at it from that lens. We're really looking at making sure that we are laying a solid foundation that is going to give them the ability to get all of these things here: scalability, robust granular and roll-up reporting, and better planning and risk management. And you'll hear me talk about these three things quite a bit. So let's talk about supporting safe with Jira and Confluence. So we often hear from clients that are really looking at, especially the tool, you'll hear sometimes Jira Align, that is kind of the big tool in this space. And so what we'll hear a lot of times from clients is, if we can't go with Jira Align, we're not there yet. What can we do in the meantime? What can we do right now today until we can make that journey with Jira Align? What can we start doing today to really enable us? We are utilizing safe methodology, and we need these tools to help support our processes. And that's really what we're going to talk about today, is how do you support safe with Jira and Confluence? So here you'll see this really represents our methodology, and it's a great kind of infographic that what this is really talking about is one of our main and primary best practices for scaling and building out that Jira infrastructure to scale is really the one project per team architecture. So what you see here is that every team will have its own project space, every program and every portfolio each has its own project space as well. And you'll get to see in a little bit how that all kind of lays out and how you're still able to get reporting and things like that. And then we architect Confluence to work hand in hand with Jira. So while teams are using Jira to do things like create their backlog and create their sprints and things like that, manage their work, move things through the workflow, what you'll see is that they're utilizing Confluence to document things like what were their goals and objectives, What did they talk about in their retros? What are their processes on their teams? You'll see things like how-to documents for teams, team charters, all kinds of things that teams will have in their spaces. And you see that on up, right? So at the program space, you'll see things like the PI objectives and stuff like that. At the portfolio space, you'll start to see those vision and value statements, the roadmaps there. Lean business cases are often seen there early on. And also policies and procedures and things like that as well. So here we start to talk about that data hierarchy, right? So we've talked a little bit about architecture, and a lot of times our clients will say, but how is that at all going to help with our data capabilities? You're segregating all these teams now, and you're putting them each into their own projects in Jira, and you're segregating the programs and portfolios. How are you going to get in any way good roll-up data? And here you'll be able to see how we do that. So the way that you're really getting that good roll-up data is through those linkages of the issue types themselves. So you'll notice that we have epics here at the portfolio level at the top. In the middle at the program level, we've got our features. And then at the team level, you have things like stories and spikes and bugs and risks. And the way that we're getting that roll up is through those linkages. So our stories are being linked to our features as through those feature links as their children. And then our features are being linked to those parent epics through a parent link, which you'll see us talk about in a little bit, how we enable that. And so what you end up with is your subtask, your story, your bug, your spike, your risk, your feature, which was formerly known as a Jira epic. Again, we'll talk about that in a moment, how we get there. And then we create this safe epic on top. So what does it take to support SAFE with Jira? So I've told you about what we want to see, right? Now, how do you actually get what you want to see? So 4 things I really want you to think about when you're architecting Jira to support SAFE. That is, proper architecture and configuration of Jira is key. And that is key throughout your SAFE journey and throughout your Agile journey, right? It's really about architecting and configuring, not just for your needs today, not just for one team's needs, but really architecting and configuring for the needs of today with the ability for your organization to be able to shift and grow and change in the days, months, and years to come to fulfill those needs that you don't yet know that exist, as well as some of the needs that you already know that you're going to have down the road. And it's configuring Jira in a way also that not only supports that, but also, as we'll talk about a little bit later, really takes into consideration things like cost of maintenance and ongoing support. I also want you to take a look at and really think about those plugins and add-ons that you're going to need to support your specific needs. So I'll talk to you about today the most common add-ons that we see, or some of the most common add-ons that we see, but there are a plethora of other add-ons out there in the Atlassian marketplace. And so when we really start digging into what add-ons are right for you and for your company and your specific needs, we really start to look at your add-on world a little bit more holistically so that we don't kind of piecemeal your enterprise Atlassian ecosystem together, right? We don't want to necessarily piecemeal it together. It can be clunky, not really high functioning. It can cost a lot more money to do that. So we really even start to look at those add-ons more holistically. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the actual add-ons and I start talking through them. So we'll talk about tools and process coaching to support your Atlassian ecosystem. So what does it take? We can build the greatest architecture, configure this thing perfectly, roll it out flawlessly. And if we do not have the proper coaching and support in place, your teams will have a product that they don't necessarily know how to implement properly, and so they'll take their best guess at it. So having those tools and processes in place is just as important as having that coaching and support. And finally, you want to have some governance. It's really important that you maintain, you protect, and you support that investment. You're spending a lot of time getting this thing up and running and getting it humming really well, meeting your needs, getting this thing fine-tuned. You're spending a lot of time rolling it out, promising great data and metrics. But if you don't govern and maintain and protect the system well, before you know it, it is out of control. So it's something that I'm hugely passionate about, and I do a lot of writing and talking about, and I'll briefly touch on that today with you all. Here we'll talk about some needed apps. So I'll talk in detail about them now, but we'll kind of breeze through them a little bit later. Here you'll see some basic functional needs that we often hear about from our scaled agile clients and specifically our safe clients in this instance. And so you'll see things like the need to support scaling models, to enable hierarchy and hierarchical reporting, to be able to enable that epic to feature translator. So many folks have a really hard time with Jira because out of the box, it's missing that layer in between epics and stories, which is called feature, right? And we've seen so many organizations that have tried to break that link that's naturally there. And when they do that, it causes a mess with all of the built-in functionality and reporting. So you don't really want to do that. So we talk about this epic to feature translator, which really makes that epic that is native in Jira, it translates it into a feature. And then utilizing these other tools like this advanced roadmaps that you see above it here, we're able to enable hierarchy. And then we're able to build on top of what you already see in Jira, where we then build on top of that newly translated epic that we've now called a feature. We now translate that and then build a safe epic on top of it. So we get things like team capacity planning, planning and forecasting, road mapping, program and portfolio, board needs, advanced features and customization, release planning and cross-project release needs, managing those dependencies. Sometimes we hear about financial and staff management. And then we get into, of course, the need for agile reporting and advanced reporting. And so here you'll see the recommendations of just some basic gadgets and add-ons that we recommend for small and medium-sized organizations that will get you started on your journey. And we talk about that, and I'll show you that a little bit more in the next couple slides. So architectural and best configuration best practices. Let's quickly talk about these. I've got a couple slides real quick that I'll go through here. Architecturally, it's really important to think about your project strategy considerations. And the reason for that is because this truly becomes your metrics and reporting and scalability architecture. So if you don't think about how you're utilizing projects in Jira, you can find yourself in a mess really down the road. This really lays the foundation for your architecture. So you want to think about 4 things when you're thinking about your project strategy. You want to think about your teams, your departments or programs or trains. You want to think about your portfolios or your lines of business. You want to think about your need for granular and roll-up reporting. You want to think about historical data as well as capacity and velocity forecasting needs and your ability to easily shift, grow, and change. Those are all key things that you want to think about when you're building out your project strategy architecture, how you're going to architect projects to support that strategy and your operation and your architecture moving forward. Then we want to talk about best practices for configuration. And there's 3 key things that we want to talk about here, but they all come down to balancing customization with cost, right? It's that fine line between customization and standardization that we talk about. So first of all, we want to talk about your strategic architectural planning. So this is where we see a lot of customers miss the mark. They'll do some architectural planning, but it's not strategic. And it's really important that you think strategically about your architectural planning. And that includes things like your projects, your schemes, your templates, all of those things that really help to reduce the time and money associated with re-architecting down the road. We also talk about standardization, which enables your enterprise-wide reporting and reduces your overall cost and complexity of administration and significantly reduces the need for really heavy administration by your administrators. But it also significantly impacts your reliability and the quality of your reporting and metrics. And then simplicity, right? Simplicity reduces both the complexity and cost associated with the management and maintenance of your system. So some key best practices here, and I won't go deep into this. You guys will all get a copy of this deck, and so I won't get deep into this, but our best practices surrounding our technical runway really are laying a strong foundation, the ability to scale that both horizontally and vertically, operating, which really is important. Again, when we start talking about you can build a great foundation, roll it out flawlessly, but if you don't have the support there when you're operating, that training, that enablement, that coaching, you're really going to find yourself not getting the data and metrics that you had expected or that you really could get, and the reliability from that. And then, of course, change management, which anytime we start talking about change management, we really talk about governance. Those go hand in hand. And as you see, this is a secular event, right? We're constantly making sure that we're laying the right foundation, rolling it out, operating, and then managing change and change requests and things like that. And we also do a whole segment on change management and governance as well. Finally, some key just best practice considerations, right? One is that you may need some re-architecting and reconfiguring down the road, and that is okay. Our organizations, through the test of time, are going to change. We're going to grow. There will be new ideas that come about as it pertains to safe and scaled agile that you may want to implement, which may require an additional field or an additional add-on, and that's of course okay, right? While we want to architect to minimize any sort of re-architecturing or reconfiguration, you might need some of those things down the road. You just want to minimize that need. Training on how to use the tool is just as important as laying a good foundation. And then specific requirements to enable the connector of Jira Align later are also one of our key considerations. If you know today that you are going to want to use Jira Align down the road, it is really important that you work with somebody that understands the connector. There are some things that you can do natively in Jira that when it comes time to connect to Jira Align, you just can't do at this point in time. And so you'd want someone to be able to tell you what those kind of gotchas are so you can make sure that you steer clear of implementing things like that later on you would have to then undo and would disrupt your teams. So let's quickly talk about two use cases, a small and a medium-sized organization. And I'm going to do this in a really kind of cool way. I'm going to take this organization from being small to growing and changing and becoming a medium-sized organization. So you can see that what I'm saying about laying the foundation strong from the beginning and how you're able to then shift and grow and change is easy. You'll actually be able to see that. So scenario one here is a small web development company. They have one portfolio, 2 programs, and they have 2 development teams and 2 sales teams within each of those programs, right? Or each of those has 1 sales and 1 development team. Functional requirements here on the right, I won't get deep into these. These are your kind of basic safe functionality requirements that we really got into a little bit earlier. Talking about team capacity, planning and forecasting, all those kinds of needs here that our small organization needs. And here you see how we match up that small organization's needs with required add-ons. So our recommended add-ons for this small organization to support their functional requirements are 4 applications here: advanced roadmaps, the safe epic to feature translator, power scripts for Jira, and agile reports for Jira. And so off to the right, you'll see how we map that, right? So of course, that safe epic to feature translator is used to do exactly that. We translate that epic to a feature. And then you'll see advanced roadmaps is used a lot here. We use it for hierarchy. We use it for hierarchical basic reporting. We use it for team capacity planning, for planning and forecasting, for road mapping, all those different things. And then you see, of course, we're using PowerScripts for any of those advanced features and customization. This PowerScripts app really opens up the world of possibility to our Jira community, right? The ability for them to utilize our SIL language to do some of their own coding and scripting and things just really opens up the possibility doors there for our folks. And then this Agile reporting app that also helps with some of those traditional Agile reports. So scenario one's architecture looks like this, right? We have the one team to one project architecture here. We've got our PHP development team that has their own project, our PHP sales team has their own project, our Java development team has their own project, our Java sales team has their own project. Each one of those in their own right rolls up to their own program, the PHP program versus the Java program, and both of those programs then roll up to our web development portfolio. And of course, covering that key functionality for forecasting and PI planning, we're using advanced roadmaps. We're also using that for our roll-up reporting. And then we're using Power Scripts to do some of our other really cool reporting and meet those other reporting needs that we have. So let's talk about use case 2. Our organization now is a medium-sized organization. Our once small web development company has grown. We are now a medium-sized technology consulting company. As you see here on the right, we have additional functional requirements, one of which is cross-project releases, right? We're doing a bunch of other things now that we're going to need because we have a larger organization. We've now got 2 portfolios. We've got 3 programs. We've got some development teams, service teams, sales teams, an HR team, and a finance team. So we've got a lot more going on at this organization now. Not only has our organization grown, it's gotten a little bit more complex, and our needs are a little bit more complex. So here you see how we meet those functional requirement needs for this medium-sized organization, where here on the left, you see we're now using not only the same 4 I mentioned before, but now we're introducing big picture to this organization. And now we're introducing Power Dashboards, reports and gadgets to this organization. And so on the right, you can see where our small organization was once using advanced roadmaps for team capacity planning and for their road mapping needs and to manage their dependencies. And now this much larger organization is utilizing big picture for many of those things. We're also now utilizing big picture for our program and portfolio boards. Before we were just managing those in Jira. Now we've got cross portfolio and cross program dependencies that we're trying to manage that are a little bit more intricate than they once were. And so we're utilizing big picture for that now. So you can see here how we're starting to use these additional add-ons. And as you see at the bottom, we now have this advanced reporting need, and we're meeting that with this really cool Power Dashboards reports gadget combined with our Power Scripts for Jira. I mean, it just opens up the floodgates of possibility when it comes to your ability to get these really cool reports and in your dashboards in particular. And here's how this organization has shifted and grown over time. So it used to be we had a PHP and a Java program. We no longer have those 2 programs. That program has kind of been split up a little bit, and now we have this web development program. This was once a portfolio. It is now a program, and you'll see that that web development program now has a Python development team, their PHP development team, and their Java development team. All the development teams now are operating together underneath this one program that is rolling up to the technology portfolio. Underneath our technology portfolio, we also have our finance program that's over here. And our sales team is now underneath the finance program, as well as our finance team. And all those are rolling up to our tech portfolio. And then we have our operations portfolio, which is really about support services. So we have a support services program. And underneath that support services program, we have our HR team that supports our entire organization, as well as a shared services team that is supporting our organization and really serves more than anything as a help desk. So as you see here, our project spaces have been able to be maintained, but we've been able to shift and move them around. And now they're connecting up to these different programs by way of their epics, right? Our stories and our team spaces have remained the same. Our data history has remained the same. Our archives, our audit trails have all remained the same at the team level, as well as at the higher levels, right? Those are able to be maintained, but now we're just connecting to different epics. So from, before, our Java development team was connecting to a Java program epic, and instead of that, they're now connecting to a web development program epic. So there's no real changes for our teams. And then key functionality, we're now using Big Picture for PI planning and forecasting and advanced roadmaps for our roll-up reporting. We're still using that PowerScripts app for all of our really cool reporting needs. So real quick, I'm going to touch on governance and the importance of protecting your investment. So here, our governance framework and protecting your investment. All of this governance framework really rests solidly on a very strong foundation of policies and standards. And those policies and standards are really firmly rooted in best practices. And then we have these three pillars: the governance committee, your processes and procedures, and then your training programs and enablement. So not only do we have these policies and these standards and best practices that we build this entire Jira platform upon, and that we manage it upon, but we have a governance committee now that really helps us to manage all of this. And they really help to vet change requests that are coming in and to make sure that all of the pieces that work together to make this machine work flawlessly continue to operate, that as we're making changes, we're vetting them with all the key stakeholders. And so one team isn't making a change that then impacts the rest of the organization. We're all coming together to make these good decisions and to vet changes that are going to be made and how they might impact each of us. And then, of course, we have strong processes and procedures that are developed that we're sharing out with our organization. How do I onboard a new user? How do I request a new project? Or how do I set up a new portfolio plan in advanced roadmaps? All those different things that we walk our folks through, how we're managing our access management, all of those different things. And then, of course, our training and enablement that we talk about that is so important, where we are not only laying the solid foundation, not only protecting our investment, not only telling people and writing and documenting these processes and procedures, but we're going one step further. We're not just writing it down and leaving it in Confluence somewhere. We're actually taking time with our users and helping to train them. We're coaching them. We're bringing in coaching from outside when that's needed. We are creating user videos and different things to make sure that our user base is getting the support that they need so that we in turn are able to get the data and the metrics out that we need. Your governance framework is going to define your architecture. It's going to define your data hierarchy. It's going to architect the roll-up of work and data. It's going to define workflow starts and stop states, define your configuration options, define all those critical elements that are used for reporting. So it's really important. And then here you just see the triangle, right? These all work in unison. We can set up this great framework, but we need the governance committee to help with managing and overseeing this great framework. And we have this ongoing process of intaking changes, making decisions on those changes, actioning those changes, communicating those out to our users so that we're not just making changes in the system that no one was aware was going to be made. No one was aware of the impact of those changes. It's really a process. And so this is really what makes up that complete governance picture when we start talking about that, which is so important to protecting your investment and all the time you spend really laying a solid foundation and getting your configurations right. So I will stop here for a moment and give you guys a few moments to ask questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lisa. If there are any questions from the audience, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. I think you covered it very much. It was very interesting. Thank you, Lisa. And that's it for today. And tomorrow we will continue with a talk about how to manage backlog efficiently with priority templates from Nikki Zawadzka from Czechso. And so if there are no questions anymore, I wish you a good day and thank you, Lisa, and bye-bye.
Thank you so much.